Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. This week we're going to work on the New York Coupe, primarily on this section. Last week I made a repair here. There was a really large gash. Kind of successfully did the repair, but I got a lot more distortion going on there than I expected. But also at the same time, there's way more damage than I thought. The panel is actually, it's not attached to the B-pillar at all here. It's actually broken away. So some of that it's pulling here. So what I'm not sure is how I'm going to approach this, whether it's going to be a panel here and a piece here and try and fix stuff up, or actually just try and make a large panel. Either way, I'm going to go for it this week, and we'll have something done. Just not sure yet how we're going to do it. So follow along and see how we go and how we solve this problem. So I've been fooling around with this panel as to what to do. What I'm thinking of doing is actually making a full piece. Went to the other side of the vehicle and I made a pattern, and I've kind of just come up with this paper pattern here that would more or less go here, and it would incorporate the whole side plus the quarter panel and also this edge over here. The edge profile over here is actually a little bit complex because it goes over, goes down, goes over and down. Camera lady can probably show you what it looks like there. I was messing around basically with how am I going to form it. So I kind of came up with this end result here. And I've got a couple test pieces of how to form this edge. So that's the profile it needs to be. It's not as simple as sticking it into a brake and making a couple bends. I made another piece a little bit larger. Don't have a whole lot of space here, but essentially I could conceivably, if I just wanted to finish just this edge, come up with that, and it's basically make the profile and shrink this edge. So that was the first thing I had to figure out. I've already made lower quarter panels here before, so I know how to do that. The struggle was, how do you make one panel and do one of these edges and get this profile? So I'll show you over on the bead roller and the brake how I form that edge. So over here, I left the bead roller set up, and it's basically a big step die. What I've figured out was, in order to get the first bend here, I had to roll it through the step dies 3 times just to get that first shape. And what I did, pardon me, on the 5-window coupe, I took a piece of masking tape and I ran it across that profile, and I marked where each line was, and then that is what I can use actually to lay it out on the piece of metal. So first step, bead roll that edge, and then the second step was just come over on the brake and you flip it over, and there it is. That's the shape, and then basically you make it on a larger scale for the shape of the car, and then I can come over here on the shrinker, and if I need to make a profile like this, I can. So that solves my problem for figuring out on what to do on the one edge of the large panel, and then I know what to do on the bottom. So now I'm going to go about cutting up a big metal pattern or a big piece of metal the size of that paper pattern I just did. I'm going to put this edge onto the side of it, try and get everything to the right shape, and then we'll work on making that large panel. Here we are a couple hours later. I took my cardboard pattern, I laid it out on a sheet of metal, kind of like as you see here. I allowed for the amount of material I want to bend over on the bottom and the top. And what I did, I cut it so that I can actually make the lines where the bottom and the folding is, and then also where I can draw my line now where the inside seam goes at the bottom of the quarter panel. So I laid that out. This was one of my trial pieces. Unfortunately, this one, I didn't apply enough pressure on the bead roller, so when I rolled the edge over the second pass, it actually broke it. So I just set that aside. Then I went and made a second one, which is basically the good one here. What I realized was that I actually had to roll the bottom section first, just like I have done in many of the other videos with the dies on the bead roller. Once I did this, I folded the edges over here the same way. Basically on the bead roller I started it, then went to the bench and used the anvil to finish hammering it over. And then that's when I did my bead rolling with the offset die here, and then I took this over to the break and I bent it over like I described. Now the other thing with this panel, there is a slight crown to it. I don't know if I can here. If you put a flat edge on the panel of the car, you'll actually see that there's actually a slight crown. So put it on the English wheel, work the center up, started in the center, worked the way around. It's just slight, so had to put the crown into it. The other thing, I had to use the shrinking dies to get this side bent. And then along the bottom, there's actually a slight curvature too. So when this is bent over, had to put the shrinking dies here to put a little slight curvature. And then a third one here. So played with that a little bit. Realized that actually I had made the passenger side panel. Was supposed to be making the driver's side panel, but that's okay. We've got to make it anyways. So here it is. It essentially is going to go right there, like that. There we go. So without cutting the piece off, I determined I've got the right crown, I've got the right shape. So what will happen with this next, so we'll probably trim this and then cut it and then fit it in place. There's probably going to be a little more tweaking on this to get it to fit here. The plan for this video actually is to do the other side. So tonight I'm going to start working on making the exact same panel for the other side. And then we'll carry on and hopefully install this panel for the other side, and maybe next video put this one on this side. Watch along, we're not done yet. Here we have the second panel I made for the driver's side. Same process as before. Bead rolled the bottom here and rolled the edges, tipped the edges over, and then bead rolled this edge and then bent this, and then a bunch of shrinking to get the shape of the panel. So the panel's almost ready to go on the side of the car now. So a little bit more trimming. This panel, I'd put this square patch in here, and I had quite a bit of warpage on the final pass. Was able to actually correct most of it, but what I realized was it's actually too thin, and then this edge here was just, it's basically gone. I'm gonna have to clean the B-pillar up here and probably put some primer or some paint onto it before I weld everything in place, but Here's the panel. And that, there, so it's pretty much ready. I'll trim the top here and then I'll cut it out, but the door shuts pretty good right now. The bottom's going to come over a little bit, so that panel is basically ready to weld on the side of the car. So I'm going to carry on with that, get it welded in place and show you the end product. Here we are the next day. I've got the panel welded in across the top here. It's all ground out. There's a couple pinholes I got to fill in, touch up, but that's normal. I've taken the fender over there, I've fitted in place, and the bottom part of the quarter panel fits the fender. I do have a little bit of a mismatch between my quarter panel here and the fender lip, but I did have a problem on either end of this when I did the fender lip video. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to make another piece here and transition that right into the bottom quarter panel, because the quarter panel is actually correct. For now, I've just got it kind of screwed into the bottom of the sub rail. I'm going to tack it along the bottom, just like they were done, or at least the way we did the Brookville Roadsters anyways. That's the way we put it together now. And there's a couple tacks here. Normally there's like little nails that go through the quarter panel that go into the wood. I'm just going to drill a couple holes and I'm going to spot weld those in place. So that's the one quarter panel. That was the toughest one to do. And ultimately, like I said in the video, because I wasn't happy with that patch, and then this whole edge was basically gone. That's all, like, it just fell apart. So that's why I made a decision to actually replace that whole quarter panel. So what there's going to be a part 2 to the quarter panel episode, because we've got to do the quarter panel on the other side. And more than likely, I think I was talking with the owner, and I will probably put the whole piece in. So on the next episode, I'll put this in. And then over here on the Moncton Coupe, we just need to replace the bottom section. The top part actually, the top part is quite sound. It's still attached to the B-pillar. So it's just a matter of making the bottom section for this one and welding it in. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on the quarter panels, and then you'll tune in next week. We'll do part 2 and finish them off. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe, and send me your comments or questions. Everybody have a great week and take care.